So welcome again to another Authors at Google program here in New York. We have a great speaker and author and driver with us here today, Alex Roy. According to his own biography, which I'm sure he wrote or had a lackey write, Team Polizei. That sounds Japanese, but I don't think it is, the way I said it. Anyway, Polizei. He's the captain. Alex Roy is an automotive travel executive, a rally driver, TV personality, and philanthropist. Since 1997, he's been the president of Euro by Car, the largest independent European car rental broker in the U.S. Europe in the U.S. That's nice. Nice touch. It's currently celebrating its 53rd anniversary. In 2002, he founded the notorious team, which I obviously can't say, Polizei. And is a 7-time trophy winner in Xtreme Rallysport, winning the 2003 Gumball 3000 Spirit Trophy, the 2004 Gumball Style Trophy, the 2005 Gumball Silver Trophy, unofficial, apparently, the 2004 Bullrun USA Team Trophy, the 2004 Bullrun Ibiza Trophy, and the 2005 Bullrun USA Silver. There's so many trophies. I can't even talk about them all, although I did. Team has a flawless safety record across 8 rallies for 4 years, covering 25,000 plus miles in the U.S., Europe, Asia, and Africa. Alex has been featured in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, BBC. He was on Letterman, Wired, New York Post, Cosmopolitan, very nice, and with a major article in Vanity Fair. He's also an executive producer of 32 Hours, 7 Minutes, which is a documentary about the 1981 through 83 U.S. Express, which is the last no-holds-bar, illegal, non-stop race from New York to L.A. He's here to talk about the book. I should have had one right here. Driver, yes. My Dangerous Pursuit of Speed and Truth in the Outlaw Racing World. But I'll let him talk about that. Please put your hands together for Alex Roy.
Thank you very much, Cameron. That was the most lucid introduction I've ever had. So thanks for having me. And this is probably the first audience ever I've had that seems to be relative converts and enthusiastic about my presence. Usually they're curious and skeptical, downright want to see me kicked out. So I'm going to skip the excuses about what I did. But I do have a clean license. I almost never speed, and I'm probably going to buy a Prius soon. So before you have any other questions about that. It's nice to be here because in another life, I probably would have worked at Google. I spend a lot of time at home reading. I love computers, and I don't do much except get in cars occasionally and drive places. But I'm going to skip ahead because I'm usually really long-winded. So we have 30 minutes approximately to speak, and then Q&A. I've got some video that's never been seen in public, which I will show. And depending how long I go over, or you don't want Q&A, we can show more of that video. It's pretty good. Most people think that I'm absolutely out of my mind, and that people who do what I do are reckless and dangerous criminals, and most of them are. And luckily, they're mostly in jail, which has left only 3 people like myself behind who are very technical, quantitative, rational, completely nerdy, obsessive people who maybe, in my case, aren't race car drivers. I am not a race car driver. But I like cars, I like driving, and I really, really wanted to accomplish something that was difficult, that hadn't been accomplished. And so having had some experience as an entrepreneur and had a couple of startups, 2 successes and a failure, I spent a lot of time writing business plans and made every mistake one could possibly make. And when you have to go through this again, but this time instead of venture capital money, your life is at stake, you take your business plan format, PDF template really seriously. So, and one thing I definitely learned is the greater the task, the more essential the plan. And a plan plans are not all created equal. Everyone who has a business plan thinks they're going to raise money, and they often do, even if the plans suck. But the fact is there are many different kinds of plans, and most plans, strengths are not known until after they failed. And so there are 2 kinds of plans. You have good plans and successful plans. And the very important thing to understand is that, vision and mission statements, the parts people always agonize over writing business plans because they don't know what the hell they're supposed to be doing, or they kind of do, but they can't explain it. The truth is, if you can't explain it in 3 seconds, you probably shouldn't be bother trying, because motivation. You need to know exactly what you intend to do, what you want to do from the first instant you start. And that's the thing about missions versus goals and targets. A mission is something, well, you know you're supposed to do this, and, well, the different degrees of success, no. There's only one measure of success. There's one bar. You know what you're doing. The difference between a staff and a team, if you don't know it, you shouldn't be attempting to do whatever it is you're doing. Assets and tools. Assets are things you kind of acquire and maybe deploy. Anything you have, any tool, anything you're going to use is something that must be used, hopefully, in a way it's never been used before. And the key to invention and success is the use of disparate tools together for the first time to accomplish something heretofore considered difficult or impossible. And the difference between aggression and audacity is the difference between some of my friends who are in jail and me speaking here at Google. It's very different things. My task, of course, was not creating a business or curing cancer. I wanted to beat these people. 5 years ago, I did something called the Gumball 3000, which is in no way related to the original Cannonball run, which we'll get to. The Gumball 3000 is 100 guys in sports cars driving across different countries, 500 to 1,000 miles a day with a 20% attrition rate to break down and arrest, hopefully to get to the party in Prague or wherever the hell they're going. But out of those 100 people, there are usually 5 or 6 people like myself who show up thinking that they're going to get recruited for some secret, illegal, nefarious race that really is still going on, like the old Cannonball was, which was a completely, no matter what you think of Burt Reynolds in the movie, professional, serious, organized event. So I needed something a little stealthier than what these guys were using, and also something that I could afford to buy on eBay. And so the obvious thing to do was to watch all the old Cannonball and Gumball movies, and there was really one strategy that seemed very obvious, which is the disguise strategy. And the ambulance had been done, so I called my attorney and asked him if I'd get in trouble for this. And he said to me that there's no law of any kind that it's not a jailable offense to impersonate a foreign police officer. That's okay. And at worst, if I was taken away, I would get off. But he said it was, and I said the alternative is to not go or take a Porsche or something like that. But even he agreed that would be suicide. And so over the years, the evolution of the Team Polizei strategy, if you'd call it, was to move on to the Canadian Mounted Police Force. And then the following year, we borrowed this nice Mercedes, which was back to the German Highway Patrol. Then we elected to do the Spanish. That's actually the Spanish consulate in London. They really thought I was visiting. It's really quite hard to understand. And then the following year, I went in a friend's car, which was a Bentley GT. And I bet you didn't know that people really thought we were the Bahamian tax collection authorities. They really believed it. And if you look closely, you'll see it says Island of the Bahamas Nassau Tax Collection Interceptor. Yeah, it's true. And I may add, I get 0 to 1 ticket a year. And, well, that's a complicated story. Disguises, obviously, you have to have disguises to match. So we have Swedish Highway Patrol, the other one with all the patches of Velcro, Canadian Mounties. Those were actually real and very hard to find. The most popular one ever was the one where we couldn't get pants in our size, which led to these tight white pants. And that was the last time I went on Gumball. And we learned a lot of different lessons. The doctor's uniforms are not very effective in avoiding police interaction. The bishop's outfits were, but don't wear them in Sicily. Police in Monaco are it's like Reno 911 in France. The Thai Highway Patrol are desperate for husbands. It's true, I love Thailand. If you bring a real dog, no one will bother you. And other cops are sure that you're a cop, but you can't ever bring the dog in the car. It's dangerous. So we brought a taxidermy dog the following year, and that was not a problem. It's true. In Florence, you have to kill someone before you'll be arrested. And if you go on YouTube and look up Florence police escort, you'll see what I'm talking about. In Austria, they should have rules about mustaches for the local police because it was in bad taste. If you look close, it's right. You can drive a truck in Morocco at 100 miles an hour with cows on top. Yes, it's true. In Albania, the cops you should wear suntan lotion and get a better tailor. His outfit's nowhere near as nice as ours. The Albanian Prime Minister, Salih Berisha, loves Team Polizei. I know it's insane, but look at Wikipedia. That's the real guy. In Albania, the highways have sheep, hundreds of them. And if you look at the night vision display on the right side of the screen, you'll see how clearly the sheep are outlined. It's really surreal. And also, Ferraris have terrible warranties. Don't ever, ever buy one. And on Sunday, if you break down, forget it. Don't ever buy a Ferrari. My car, the M5, if you know anything about it, is obviously the greatest car ever made, ever. But has terrible fuel economy if driven irresponsibly, as demonstrated in this picture. In Italy, the cops were so gorgeous that I thought I was being punked, so I gave her my number, and she let me go. Anyway, just in case we're clear, the BMW E39 M5 used is now about $25,000, and it can do this. It's the best car ever made, without a question. And the tire defect warning light is defective. You can ignore it. The car is incredible. And if it goes to German, now you know a German word. So Bentley electronics are very good, but a little wiring outside, not a big deal. Belgian police will ask for your autograph and not give you a ticket. It's legal to have an inflatable sex doll in Louisiana. If it's belted, it's okay. Other people are a little more aggressive about this stuff than I am, and sometimes even I get caught. This is my most famous arrest picture, but that's because I was wearing this outfit on the 60th anniversary of D-Day. I didn't know the date. I would have worn the other outfit, but that's how it goes. But the good news, and we're about to get to the spicier part of the presentation, is that I've been forgiven for all of this and have gotten to visit some new friends, and that's what we're going to discuss today. Because all of this stuff, these pictures they're funny, but they're not really informative about what we've learned and what we've done. Because the reason I did all of this is that I was obsessed with the Cannonball Run. My dream, my whole life, maybe the dream of anyone over 30 who's seen the Cannonball Run film, is to do something like that someday. And people who do the Gumball think that they're doing that because they paid 30 grand or 50 grand to enter, but they're not. You can do what I did for $406 in gas and $20 in tolls. The rest is up to you. So the dream was inspired by this film, a film that's not yet out, 32 hours, 7 minutes, a trailer I saw maybe 3 years ago for a historical documentary about the people who last did races like this. In 1983, the race called the US Express. Well, that was the race in which this record was set. And after that, for reasons unknown, the race ended, and no one knew why. So I called up the director and invested money in the film to learn the secrets. And the history of such events is actually quite informative because it parallels records in other fields of athletics. The record for going cross country, 271 hours may seem like a terrible time, but there was no road system back then. And you can see the times came down until 1979 on the last Cannonball. After the last Cannonball, Brock Gates, the organizer, was terrified of prosecution, so he called it off. And then the US Express began. For 4 years, 10 drivers went in total secrecy to break 30 hours, which was considered the holy grail of cross-country times. And Brock Gates himself said that it could never be done. And he said this in 1980, and he said it as recently as a couple of years ago. Impossible to break 30 hours. But I am a big fan of what's the old line about the head of the patent office in 1902 who said everything that's been invented ever has been invented. It's all over. I love that line. I have that on my desk. So, which brings us to Roger Bannister. Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile and is my greatest inspiration. In 1952, Bannister and other members of the British Olympic team failed miserably to achieve any of the medals that they wanted to win. And 3 of the members of that team, Bannister included, decided they would break the 4-minute mile. The times over several hundred years had dropped for the mile, and it clustered around 5 minutes in the late 19th century. And then in the late 30s, it clustered just over 4 minutes. But it was considered physically impossible. Doctors said it could never be done. If someone could do it, they would drop dead the instant they crossed the finish line. But Bannister was not a full-time athlete. He was a medical student. He was a quant, rational thinker, a bit of a geek among athletes, and he couldn't even really afford to train the way the other athletes did. So he built a treadmill and used his own body as a lab and studied the nature of the use of energy and oxygen in the blood. And all he did was study and practice to break 1 mile. He couldn't do anything else while the other guys trained 12 hours a day. He ran to and from his dorm to his lab, and Roger Bannister was the one who did break that record. And then he never ran again. And after he ran that, he met Sir Edmund Hillary a couple of years later, who climbed Mount Everest. And allegedly, he asked Hillary to get on his treadmill. Hillary liked to drink and smoke, and Hillary almost passed out. And he's like, Hillary, how the hell did you get up Mount Everest? He's like, I really wanted to. So an important lesson. So when we decided that we were going to attempt to break the cross-country record of 32 hours, 7 minutes, and possibly 30 hours, we deployed everything we learned from our successes and failures as entrepreneurs. So kitchen sink thinking. Roger Bannister, if it isn't cold fusion, it's possible. It's totally possible. Anything's possible given the right set of factors assembled together. But not everything is necessary. I knew from Gumball that people who were going up against me, who were taking it seriously, might spend $1 million a year bringing Bugatti Veyron and 2 Porsche backup cars and a repair truck. Unlimited cash, but I'd still come up ahead of them because they were not focusing on what really mattered, which was, let's say contingency planning. Yes men, no men, and quantitative instinctive thinking. Everybody who tries to do anything like what I did or what my team did thinks if you get a Ferrari and a pile of cash and if you go to a party the night before, you're set. That's suicide. And everyone around them who tells them that buying that red Ferrari, my friend Matthew, who's a salesman of Ferraris and Porsches, I'm sorry, but I don't mean to insult you at all. But people always assume that the simplest explanation or simplest approach is the best one. Actually, it usually isn't. If you get in a red sports car, no matter how good a driver you are, and try to do what I did, you're dead. But if I get in a track in my blue M5 and try to race guys who are trained in those cars, I will always lose. 2 different tasks. You have to understand exactly what it is you're doing. So after you've come up with a plan, you have to break it apart. And once you have a variant of the plan with the least flaws, because they'll always will have a flaw, that's the plan. And whatever it is only a guide. On the bottom right, you have this quote from Robert Heinlein, who wrote Starship Troopers. And if you look at the military strategists and teachers at Army War College in Annapolis, the ones who actually warned of all the things that went wrong in the Iraq War, every one of them is a huge fan of Starship Troopers and military science fiction because all those books were written by very liberal authors who broke apart and deconstructed the Vietnam War and systems theory. And they all said the same thing. Don't stick to the plan. If something goes wrong, when circumstances change, it's changed with them. So the assault in 32 hours, 7 minutes, we had our business plan. So we had, obviously, the car, 2 drivers, and the director of the film, Corey Wells. We had someone back home monitoring weather live, nonstop for 40 hours, transmitting via email and text and phone to us, and the spotter plane, and the witnesses on the ground, and the journalists who were at both ends, including David Johnson, who's here with us today from Jalopnik, formerly of Jalopnik. And we had scout camera cars, which left ahead of us and were on the road rolling at the finish line to record our arrival departure. For everything we need to do, since we're not a professional racing team, we have no sponsors, no backup, and we had never really believed that we would make this a profitable venture. We had to be really serious about the mechanical breakdown aspect because you're not going to get a new car if you crash it. I can't afford to buy another one like this. So the milestones, we had multiple runs cross-country slow to record a video, which we watched in real time. If you ever watched 35 hours of anything nonstop, staying awake, it sucks. Really sucks. And only going to the bathroom to match the drive bathroom stops. That's like every 7 hours. It's really bad. And then we did it in a relatively faster pace, which also really sucks. So now we've watched maybe 500 hours of video in real time with minimal bathroom stops in my living room. I don't care how nice your house is. It's really a terrible thing to be doing. Your relationships will all suffer for it. And then we attempted several air-to-ground communications tests, none of which worked, but we decided to use the plane anyway. And then we had to go deeper and kind of ruin our personal lives by non-disclosing our wives, girlfriends, mothers, boyfriends, and husbands, all of whom thought we were having affairs or cheating or had drug problems. None of them believed us when we told them the truth. So the mission, the mission, goal, and parameters of our task. If we, all of us had businesses, jobs, and things that we wanted to protect. So injuries and deaths were a no-no. That sounds obvious, but there are people out there who want to break this time, who really don't care if they kill people. And if you see, a lot of you guys have read my book, there's not one piece of hard information in that book which would actually help you do this. I mean, the story's there, and you can piece it together because of your Google, but beyond that, no, it's not a blueprint, and there's a reason for that. So we define the environment, which almost a competitive landscape analysis, and the threat profiles of the competition. So here, each of these different forms of opposition have different threat profiles. State police, local police may pursue, may not, based on distance, based on what they're using, based on communications, and things I really shouldn't get into. The 2 schools of thought, brute force and finesse, we know which one I believe in. a cover story was necessary, and luckily Charles Graber at Wired Magazine had just done a story about storm chaser vehicles and informed us that our equipment was identical to what's used by storm chasers. Therefore, the storm chaser sticker and a guidebook and some plush pillows and a shirt, about $38 investment, we were storm chasers. And actually, we did print out the map of the day's storms. And so had we been stopped, we could have told people which way to go. But no matter what we said, they would have followed us because they assumed that we're going away from the storm because we were leaving. Well, we'll get to that story later. The car. This is what it looked like when we went across. Obviously, you don't want a single sticker on it. But even an unstickered M5 that's 8 years old was pretty conspicuous in the Midwest. And with 4 antennas on top, I will show a video very soon of what happens when someone sees a blue BMW come by with antennas. The car was covered in mud before we left. This shot is not so obvious, but here you see the car is pretty dirty. On the bottom of the bumper, you see the thermal night vision camera system and a second camera on kind of off to the left. The interior of the car, there are 25 devices in the car on when we're going cross country. It's really noisy and confusing and unpleasant. And when I drive now, I never speak. I just don't want to turn these things on anymore. It really, really sucks. This is what it looks like at night, where the entire car's interior is like literally glowing, and it's really hard to see out of the car. So this is a graphic of Wired Magazine's partial breakdown of the equipment we brought in the car. And then you have the plan itself. For every given possible parameter we're up against, any one of which could have gone wrong and led to disaster, we had at least one hard solution and one soft solution. I won't go through them, but I'll email you the slide if anyone wants to see it. The very, very, very important board is the measures and countermeasures. There are some things against which you can't. There's no active defense like radar. And so in that case, your defense is literally observation. And you'd be surprised. I mean, I speed sometimes, but 99% of the time you can avoid getting a ticket by looking. People drive by cops all the time. And here's something people usually deserve the tickets they get. I always have. This is a list of all the equipment that we had in the car, almost all of which was sourced on eBay. And if you had to buy this stuff off a shelf, maybe $50,000, $60,000, but under $10,000 if you are a very aggressive shopper raised by parents like mine in New York City. Now we get to the more fun part, legal factors. The research on the possible punishments made it clear the worst place to get pulled over was in any state marked in yellow, orange, or red. Because the statute of limitations, as you'll see there, and then the second column, you have the date of my book tour start, because I kind of try to make it coincide with the expiration of the statutes. And then, of course, my co-pilot, David Maher, who's not here today, since he didn't travel much, I thought it'd be best to let him drive in all those states. So just in case I wanted to go to Oklahoma, it wouldn't be a problem. And he never opened the email of this document anyway. And when he realized how dangerous it had been for him, he was really, really upset. And his excuse was, what if I fell in love with a girl from Oklahoma? I'm like, too bad for you. So the security, we were probably more secure. I was actually told by a member of the FBI that we surpassed their level of need to know and security, operational security. So this was pretty funny because not only do we keep it secret for almost a year and a half in advance, but for a year afterwards. That included ex-husbands and wives who were very angry with their ex-spouses. They still kept quiet. Never understand why. We set up driving protocols, which I will, well, this isn't really giving anything away. If you follow these rules, you'll never get a ticket. But if you do, it's going to be a really bad one. So we literally would sit there and test each other on what to do in any given situation, if then. Speeding protocols, same day or night, the decisions are different. Every single thing, at least in my mind, had to be mapped out because at least if we got confused, we'd have a default pattern, default decision to make on the road. If every piece of electronic died in the car, there would be something we could do other than panic. So we have the escape protocols. These are a very simple distillation of what to do in the event you are hit with police laser, radar, or scanner report of someone following you. But the most important thing on this slide is the contingencies, forks versus trees, because everything that comes before, which is purely quantitative, like systems theory, this is what must be done in any circumstance. If everything is wrong or any of the assumptions are wrong, you have to be able to have some option other than panic and failure and going home. And that's true in anything, in business, in life, in anything. And so fork people, those are people who literally think you got 3 prongs on the road. It's like, okay, success, okay, and we're toast. And those people never succeed because if they're in between the prongs, the forks, and anything doesn't match their expectations, then they're probably going to fall down the hierarchy of possible outcomes to failure. So tree people, all they know is that they know where they want to go, and there may be an infinite number of ways to get there, of branches on the road. And tree people, well, they succeed more than fork people. So route planning methods as of 2005, these are all the different forms of GPS technology, whether web, online, or aftermarket hardware, and all of them. And even to this day, this remains true. There's no single form of GPS technology on which I'd really want to bet my life. And when I meet law enforcement, especially military now, who are going to anywhere in the world, and they're in a Humvee with one GPS device, I carry 6. I expect half to fail. They carry 1, and these guys are going on missions and knocking on the wrong door and killing people or getting killed. GPS technology has a long way to go, but we really like Google Earth, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So the first generation of planning, well, I'm behind schedule. Garmin Mapsource, 2-dimensional, 8-year-old application, not very good, onto which we entered 127 waypoints, of which only 4 were navigational turn decisions. The rest, warnings. This is an example of the use of a tool, an old tool, in a new way. All we want the waypoints to tell us is, you made a mistake here last time, don't hesitate, don't turn. This is an example of the first drive plan, based on our assumptions about distances, stages, driver swaps, fatigue, the fuel economy figures for every car from the past that had ever done or attempted to do what we were doing. And all the way on the right side, you'll see the speeding limits and felony charge thresholds for speeding. So we set the cruise control 1 mile per hour below that. We learned that the M5 on the recon run gets excellent fuel economy at an average in the 80s of almost 20 miles to the gallon. So the fuel economy problem in this country is one of driving style. We use Google Earth to debrief ourselves on our mistakes. And we learned that you should spend a lot of time playing Gran Turismo on PlayStation, because if you can't play that for 3 hours without crashing, you can't drive a car for 7 safely. Bring a lot of beef jerky, because the smell will keep you awake. Bathrooms and flashlights are the best way to train for night driving. You just sit in a bathroom with a flashlight for 10 hours with someone with a bad sense of humor, and that's your co-pilot, because that's the guy you can trust to stay. Kitty litter, literally, we had Japanese bags with kitty litter in them as bathroom solutions, and we never used them after the first time. And we have a video of that, which we're not going to show. And joke books, really, if you give a joke book to your co-pilot or anyone you're going to spend a lot of time with, give it to them like 3 months before you start working together, because you're going to run out of jokes really quickly. But most importantly, the fuel timetables. We knew at any given consumption rate exactly what time we'd get there, barring weather. And this chart, which we did not carry in the car, because if we were pulled over with it, it'd be like handing the gun, a bank robber handing the gun to the cop. We knew that they'd figure out what we're doing. We had an intern who worked at the Jersey Turnpike Authority in IT, who accessed all the cameras and databases of traffic volumes, who gave us down to the mile marker every single speed trap location, and we had a few more people like this. We went back to Garmin. And this time, after debriefing ourselves, we went in deep and put in speed trap locations based on open source websites such as Radar, what is it? Trapster? No, that didn't exist. The other one, speedtrap.org. Yeah, it's not very accurate, but if you color code them by proximity to the road you're going to be on, and then you use Google Earth to go very close in and observe using a military style of analysis of the geography, you'll see precisely where the police might be waiting. And we turn out to be 100% accurate in using Google Earth for this purpose. So, threat prioritization. Well, I'm not going to get into this too much because I am over time. But the next card is very interesting because I was asked by a venture capital firm if I were to break my own time or try to, what hardware and software would I need or want, and what would the logic be behind it? This is the logic behind it, X'd out, so you can't really see what I told them, but you'll see quite clearly there is a set of rules to doing what we did, and there are many more rules pertaining to driving safely and economically, rule sets that have never really been laid out and implemented in a GPS device or in a car. Where we are in terms of GPS and the usage of GPS while in a moving car, it's in its infancy, as we'll see in a moment. The final drive plan is a lot more colorful because I had a friend who was really good at Excel come in. And this was really quite interesting because it turned out, although previous versions were very inaccurate, wildly inaccurate, in fact, 3 hours slower than our actual time, this was within 3 minutes of our final time. And that's probably because the intern in New Jersey, who was a college kid, came in and found all my mathematical errors. We've been for 3 years stuck in the spreadsheet. We're almost done. We'll get to the video. This is a critical lesson that we learned doing what we did, and a lesson for any business plan, which is that news is not the same thing as data or information. And to be useful, for something to become information, it has to be, well, actionable. And there are various dependencies. But if, how often do you listen to the radio and hear a news report about anything, and it's completely useless? Pretty much everything. But, if you don't understand the difference between two types of context, same information. The radar detector goes off next to a shopping center, and it goes off in the open desert. Context. It's a very stupid example, but it's a very important one, because the same piece of news means two different things, two different times a day, two different places. And this is the situational awareness pretty much was limited to this. Everything we did was based on what this said. So in this screen, you'll see we're going 157 miles an hour. It's 1,100 miles into the ride, and that we've been doing this for 11 hours and 37 minutes. And when you look at that board, you don't get excited. You get actually quite terrified that you have to keep doing that really 2.5 times longer than you've been doing it. And when you are under that kind of pressure, doing something for which there's no good reason, and you can't do it again for various reasons, you start thinking very clearly about your decisions. Because we wanted to break that record. But I'll be the first to say, my co-pilot Maher will disagree with me, I was willing to fail rather than kill someone. And he wasn't willing to answer the same question on the topic. But he's also a better driver than I am. So I will now show you how much better a driver he is. This is a video of the first intercept between the spotter plane and the M5 outside St. Louis. And this is another example of no matter how much you plan for things, when two people or objects must meet in space and time, well, anything can go wrong, and you can't plan everything. And we got a lot of back here. 50? Between 55.
You got a view? Got no visual. Right. I can't see. I don't see them.
Capital ground, capital air.
What would you like me to say? I need the longitude only. It might have happened again. North 3829, west 9046. I-46, west 90. Thanks. This is distance and bearing. Nobody's moving. We'll take a quick here. I think we got him. You got a visual. Got no visual. I can't see the distance. Between and them and that truck. Look, I need the line coming up on this straightaway. We got exactly no problem. North 3829, west 90. Man, he's 6.
Very strange. Well, I'll hold it there. For some reason, I have a double video play. I don't know what it is. Well, we'll let that go. The most important lesson we learned is that even if you have video of an event, and even if you break up the video, and you break up all the evidence, all the information gathered on what you've done, and you want to display it and show it to someone to prove what you did, in our case, or tell the story of what you did, it's very hard to convey information over space and time. We have 31 hours of video, 11 cameras, so 31 times 11, thousands of stills, pictures, receipts, and witness accounts. 26 people were involved. People are always asking, how could you prove this? I'm always asking myself, how do we debrief ourselves and analyze what we did performance-wise? Were we to do this or anything like it again? Watching the video, which I'll pop back to in a second because it's out of sequence, the video of an event that occurred in Oklahoma is a video I've shown probably 100 times to law enforcement and tech companies. It's the video of an incident in Oklahoma where we are pursued by multiple police cars. We're going to show maybe 2 minutes and 15 seconds of it. But what's so important about this video is that even if you watch it 20 times, there is more going on in this video than you could even grasp in those 20 views. Because the confusion levels, the mistakes made by us, by the police, are increased exponentially, such that we get to the point where neither side knows what to do, and we have to default to our protocols, the protocols slides you saw earlier. And the only way we ever really understood what happened was when we took the video from, I think, 6 different cameras, watched it separately, and then using Google Earth, which you just saw, well, here you're looking at it, we went to the aircraft view and started looking at the map as the plane saw it, and including the shots that the plane couldn't get because it was banking the opposite direction. We watched it from our angle, the police angle, angles of other cars that were there, and we began to piece it together. And, people say, like Rashomon, there's like 7 sides to every story, truth is relative. It's not. There is always one truth. We just lack the tools to see it, to have the story put in a format we can understand. And for us, Google Earth has been a tool we've used probably in about 15 completely unique different ways. But this way is probably the most entertaining way. So I'm going to go back, show 2 minutes of this video, and then we'll get to our Q&A.
Oh my God.
What's up?
There we go.
See, you just gotta do it sometimes. You have no choice, man. I'm telling you. You gotta.
Dutch. Yeah, you are pulling away from you.
What's the proof that everyone uses as much gas as everyone else?
I reported a blue BMW speeding, leaving an hour traffic and driving recklessly on P5 unable to keep up or get tagged. 12:39 hours less.
Shit. What do we do?
Well, we're stuck in traffic, so.
How do we hide?
I mean, hiding places. We don't hide anywhere.
116, that's the guy. Where is he? He's right ahead. That's him right there. Does he see us?
Well, here in a second.
Oh my god. Yeah, he's braking. He's thinking he's turning around.
Is he really?
Yeah.
For sure?
Should we get out? Yeah, he's crossing over the median. Alright. We have to get out of this exit and hide.
I don't know if we're gonna have a lot of room to hide out here. There's not many hiding places.
Yeah? Oh my god, my heart is about to fucking fall out. The plane.
It's only hearsay if, he didn't catch you doing it, so just don't be speeding. And don't leave, He'll follow you for a little bit. I don't think he can pull you over.
Anything.
I don't know. Should we hide anything, or?
What is there to hide? Check it out right here. What do I smoke?
Well, there's nowhere to go. I mean,
Check it out. Get off, let him pass. What do you think? Right now.
go.
Brake lights off.
At least this way we might have a story.
Who's leaving? Eyes open.
Careful, careful. Stop sign, stop sign.
Take a good look. You see him
Go this way, go this way. Take a
look.
left.
I can't see. Wait, you see him? Tell me I have to piss.
I can't see if he's coming.
Tell me I have to piss. Tell me I have to piss.
We will.
Semi just stopped by from it. Blue BMWs on up ahead of me. He swap over. You just one of them.
Alright, so
He thinks we're still going.
Well, I cut the meeting in here to
Or no.
1:15. I thought I had time, but
Here he is.
dark blue BMW.
I'm gonna get out and
dark
piss.
tinted windows. Looked like it had some antennas on it.
I'm gonna get out and piss right here.
It was eastbound. That might be it. Dirty ahead of me.
I'm gonna get
Here,
that.
shut.
Turn everything off. Yeah. Turn everything off. All power.
Well, if you've read the book, you know what happens. I'm still standing in this room, but this will be about 10 seconds to scan through this. But what you'll see when it gets to the middle part of the country in the Oklahoma bit is that there were, in fact, 5, if not 6 police cars out in that area that eventually deployed after us, and every single assumption we had was wrong, as were theirs. And even with the plane, the communications didn't work, everything failed. And here we go, there's the Oklahoma incident. So that's the reverse angle, and then the angle the plane had when it observed us back on the road approaching one of the police stops. But without Google Earth, without even the ability to get up in space and do an aircraft view, and in fact embed YouTube video in Google Earth, animate it, without all those little pieces in place, all this little functionality, well, Google Earth 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, couldn't do it. Now it can. And our ability to tell stories now is far better than it was. But this map that we released in Wired last year was created 2 years ago, 10 data points in it. Took 2 months to build. And of course, now today, things are a little better, and which we'll get to at the very end. The lessons of all this, call your mother, that's not talking about my butt or a car, it doesn't matter. There are many things you can do if you have money that aren't always necessary. The night rider refueling truck, we thought about that. The air-to-air refueling arms, don't do it. The horse full of gas in the fake horse trailer, NASCAR, none of these things. Everyone said, oh, you've got to do this. If you don't, you're an amateur. But having done the research, I can tell you for a fact, none of these things would have made a difference. If you gave me another $10 million, it would not have had any effect on the outcome. But what we did learn through all this is that if we'd had more time to apply the lessons from the reconnaissance drive, in fact, if I was going again today, I'm not quite sure I'd bring much more than I had, but I would use the same tool sets a little more aggressively, and which brings us to what's going on now. Recently, almost by accident, I was going over the very same presentation I was giving to you, and I received a phone call from Piaggio, Vespa. They sending 2 people cross country, and they would like to leave in 3 days, and they wanted a website and a blog and near real-time mapping in Google Maps or anything, and Google Earth, and they wanted someone to do this, deploy literally in 36 hours. And obviously there are hundreds of companies that can do this. They have the technology and manpower and the experience, but none of them have ever done all those things at one time, deployed literally immediately with staff up 24/7, ready to take a phone call, look at weather, edit maps, and deploy literally within minutes from getting a phone call with information. Real-time video, streaming web from a laptop with a wireless, all these pieces exist, but no one was putting them together. But we had put them together, for this insane mission, 1 time, 3 times. And as a result, we got the job to do the website for Piaggio's cross-country ride. We didn't even have a company. So the next day we started the company, and that was 3 weeks ago. So, the applications of what we learned, not just about sticking to the very logical rules of business plan writing, hundreds of years old, but that all the things we used to go cross-country were off the shelf or free. And no one else had applied them in quite this way. And I'm sure someone else today is thinking about doing this, and maybe they're smarter than I am, or they're more creative, or maybe they have more money and they'll spend that money in a way I wouldn't have thought of. But the fact is, for any complex task, there's someone out there who's willing to give it a shot over the guy who isn't. And in this case, I have Josh Vitza here and Peter Wu and David Johnson. We, 3 weeks ago, began this new company deploying everything we learned on the cross-country drive to do something completely legal for the first time in my life. And in this case, we created what we think is a very impressive KML file, one that had 14 times as much data in it, created in 2 days. And the time it takes to create these KMLs, there are hundreds of KMLs go every day, thousands, but which ones can tell a story and convey information in a way that's clear, or support a mission or a business or a plan? This, like many other things, is in its infancy, just like GPS interfaces and hardware and software design and manipulation of data to be placed in maps licensed from third parties. Everything I'm talking about, everything we did, could be done way, way better, and will be, probably by people we don't yet know, people we have not yet met, and I hope they don't do it in a car because someone might get killed. And I'm retired from all this anyway. But the most important thing in it, no matter what, is the team. If any one person had failed at their job or quit this thing we did, it would have failed. And the team, Josh Wexler drove the chase car, my old college roommate, Petersmeyer, who did wash his feet after we told him he couldn't put his feet over the back seat over my head one time. He's the second cameraman. John Goodrich, Maher, Corey Wells, the director of the film. If I hadn't met her, even with everything I knew from doing Gumball about technology and driving, if I had not met her and read the transcripts of the drivers from 1983 about what they did, I could never have done this. And the lessons were not the lessons anyone wants to believe about the Cannonball Run. The lessons were practice, research, logistics, quantitative approach. David Maher says I'm a coward and I'm slow, but I still think that I was right about all of this. And my book is out. I'm not here to shill it because I gave it all away, all the ones I had. But the movie will be out in a few months, and it's really good. My last note to everybody is anything is possible, but not everything is necessary. And anyone who tells you they should buy a red Ferrari and get a Knight Rider truck is probably going to jail. So I'm way over time. I got, I think, 10 or 15 minutes for Q&A. I'll stay until you kick me out, or until someone demands that I show the 3 other videos I brought. Didn't we say this morning? Okay. Well, next video demonstrates. I'm trying to think which one it is. It's either the one where Maher says I'm a coward because I tell him that 155 is too fast. Well, let's just see which one it is. Ah, yes.
Does he keep it up with me? Pretty much. I'm going 125 knots to go out running here.
Awesome.
Holy crap.
Miles out of Oklahoma City. Dave. I like that move on Gumball. I don't like it here. One call from one of those guys could fuck us completely.
He hit the accelerator too hard.
But listen, it's not worth 45 seconds to fuck the whole drive because one of those guys has a problem with us.
Sorry.
So this is an ongoing debate between us about how fast we should be going. I'm actually really into fuel economy, and my tables indicated that 127 was about the threshold of fuel economy because we had to keep it above 18.5 miles to the gallon. Eco guy, me. Whoops. Yes, we showed the other video. That's it. Q&A.
Thanks for being here today. I'm curious what you did to physically train for this, but more so mentally, because to keep up that level of concentration for that long must be more exhausting than like running a marathon.
Are you referring to the that long, like the 31 hours in the car?
Yeah. Or just any of the races that you've done, like that sort of concentration level to just keep it like, I'm driving 127 miles an hour.
When you're going that fast for that long, hang on a second. When you're going that fast for that long, you're actually so focused on what you're doing. I mean, the number of tasks, the amount of information that's coming in is so much of it that it's like goldfish in a tank. Like, check out that treasure over there. Oh my God, I haven't eaten so long. Is that food? Oh my God, a diver. Oh, hey, check out that treasure. And so it's like an ongoing, like pilots in a plane and have their protocols. So literally, we're like, check CB, check scanner. We reset all the systems. I mean, we are not talking or listening to music because we're so busy. And if there was a down moment, I'd probably be so terrified I probably couldn't think of anything else. So you're really busy. You do feel fatigued probably 20 hours in, but then you realize there's only 10 left, so you're back in action. But the way I train is literally, I would sit there and play Gran Turismo on infinite lap setting. And if you want to drive with me, you had to come in and sit with me. And if you didn't, you couldn't go. So.
What do you think the theoretical fastest time is?
30 is possible.
30?
It's a nice, simple answer, right? It's totally possible, given weather and traffic in your favor.
So if you were to attempt to do 30 hours, would you use different tools? Like I saw you used Excel spreadsheets. Would you attempt to use Google spreadsheets at all?
Well,
they get all the data from the internet and everything.
I'm glad you bring that up. The primary reason we didn't use Google spreadsheets at the time, well, I'm not sure if they existed at the time, but also my home internet connection is terrible. But an interesting thing you raise is that the suite of Google applications, the majority of them are deeply interconnected, deeply integrated with each other, which for us, Team Polizei is strictly GCal. And no, really, we have different hierarchical levels of security and settings in the calendars. If you could somehow, or you could call us, we could discuss it. We could advise you on how to integrate Google Maps and Earth into the other applications in the Google suite. Then we would be all Google. but we'll talk about that outside of this room.
So I feel like your real favorite car has to be like a Lamborghini or something. Like, is it actually the BMW?
Actually, I was never a BMW guy. I was more of a Subaru guy. I have a Subaru. It's very economical. Lamborghini began as a tractor company, and their heritage remains tractors.
So that's not a Lamborghini.
Well, the thing about Ferraris is that even though I'm not a Ferrari guy, at least they win races when they race. They also win races to Cipriani and restaurants all over Midtown. But Lamborghini, which began as a tractor company, has never won a race because they don't race. So it's neither a tractor nor a race car.
So you're going to stick with the BMW then?
I'm going to buy a Prius or a Mini or something.
All right.
No, by the way, I never drive. I'm terrified of driving now. I'm like absolutely mortified.
I've got like a million questions, so if nobody else does, I can just keep asking.
Ask who hey, I'll stay here all day.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
Hi.
Yes.
I'm just curious, do you ever get stuck in traffic? I mean, it's 2,800 miles. Right?
No. Well, what we did, which, if I had another 6 hours to really get into like tip of the iceberg of what we did, we drove, we knew that there were only several weekends a year historically ever that you could ever do anything like this. It has to be a 3-day weekend, a holiday weekend, which is not a travel holiday historically, and that it had to match up with weather pattern cycles. And so we went to the federal highway website, looked at historical traffic levels over time. We found that they pretty much were identical to the 80s and 70s. In theory, because of sprawl in suburbs and traffic being higher, it should have been worse. Everyone says it's worse, but it isn't, because I never drive, even in my normal life, unless I have to, unless I have to. And if there's traffic, I so don't have to. I'll walk or take public transportation. But we never saw traffic. Maybe. No. Johnson, did we ever see traffic? I think we saw 2 police cars. We hardly saw anyone. But of course, if everyone drove that way, traffic theory is based on water theory and freezing of water. And of course, if people redistribute over, this is also gets back to GPS logic. If everybody on Earth had a GPS rerouting them based on traffic would equalize at an equally bad level for everyone. So I'd rather everyone else have no GPS or a bad one, and I have a good one or a friend that I can call, and then, yeah. And I would also want to pay a premium for GPS service that rerouted me on a route that only the other people who paid premium price could get to. So the guys with the cheaper aftermarket GPS that didn't, and then they would be routed somewhere else. Seriously, it's going to go that way, and I hope it does. Someone will hack that too, 'cause I'll hire them.
So you mentioned in '83 it was 32:07.
Yes,
was the record, and you shaved about an hour off that, or a little over an hour off that.
Yes.
They obviously didn't have the same technology you did.
Not true.
It's not true.
They had everything we had except laser jammers, because the police didn't use laser at the time. They had night vision, with stabilization, I think a little more gas. We did a spotter plane. They were the original quantitative cannonball guys. And to be clear, and we duplicated their equipment set, but more importantly, and I always crack this joke, it's like if you were an English major and I had a headache and I handed you a book on brain surgery and begged you to do it, well, I'd be crazy, right? So what we learned from them really were the protocols of how they deployed everything. And people, like just last week, a guy I met who's a real nice guy, smart guy, Audi R8, like 50, 60 grand of equipment in it, much better than mine. Live streaming Google Earth in car, 2 broadband antennas, like 2 tablet PCs, like 5 Garmins and TomToms. This guy was, awesome. Heart-stopping jealousy for me. Like, I want to come out of retirement. And the guy, I think his co-pilot got arrested, and stuff all broke because there was no protocol or backup for if everything failed. So.
Sorry. This is
Not as sorry as I am.
We've run out of time, but we really want to thank you, Alex. Everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Big round of applause.